going to go over time.
This is another episode of Veterans in Politics Talk Show. This is Steve Sanson, Christina Ortiz. Today's two guests is going to be Michael Wixom, University Regent District Number 6, and Christine DeCorte, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District Number 18. So what's going on there, Christine?
So I did have like one rant, and I think the entire country has the same rant. What's going on in Dallas? When is violence the answer to violence? And when does someone step up and say enough is enough? What's going on in Washington? Why is it that our administration has come out for thugs, for criminals with rap sheets as long as my arm can reach, but has not come up for the men in blue?
I don't know. I don't know what to say, but I know that here in Las Vegas, I was very, very adamant about police shooting unarmed civilians, and we stood up for Stanley Gibson when he was shot in the vehicle unarmed, and we also stood up for Trevon Cole. He was another gentleman that was shot unarmed and killed, and he was dumping marijuana in the toilet in boxer shorts and T-shirts. But you know what? I think that I'm sorry that the way everything went down with the sniper on the roof killing 5 innocent officers who had nothing to do with shooting unarmed individuals. But I think that there's going to be some type of revolution in this country within the next 20 years because the civilian populace is getting really tired of what's going on. You have cops being able to do whatever they do and get away with murder because we don't have a justice system that prosecutes them. We don't have judges that hold them liable for what they do. We don't have a sheriff or a police commissioner that gets rid of them and put them on charges. So once the system changes, I think then people will say, okay, if a police officer does something illegal, they're going to be held at the same standards as a civilian populace. Until that happens, people are going to do what they're doing right now.
And so, it's heartbreaking to wake up to the news and see us in a state of disarray. This country feels like we're back to the Reconstruction era of the Civil War. That's where I feel back we're at. And then, I guess I have 2 rants, and it's going to come off of it. Our local kids don't even know anything about their local politics. Our high school seniors getting ready to vote this November have no clue who's sitting in office. So we want the system to change, but yet those who can change it have no idea who's even in the system.
Right. Well, that's what this show is all about. Educating the public and making them an educated voter when they go to the voting booth. And hopefully we'll bring in some new voting bodies to vote for folks that are going to serve the people and not serve themselves.
So, but that was my rant today. My heart goes out to those families of the innocents that were shot, and my heart goes out to the victims, across the nation. But just hoping and praying that we do keep those that do protect and serve rightly in our prayers, and the families that are in our prayers, because it's a hot button for everybody. And I do, I worry every day that we have kids that do have to go to school. I myself have kids that do have to go to school, and I hope she could go to school safely.
Right. Well, I just want to let everybody know we're at the Thunderbird Hotel and Lounge. This is the first time we're here, and we're going to see how this works out for us. And let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. This is Steve Sanson and Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We're going to come back with Michael Wixom, University State Regent for District Number 6. For District Number 6. We're good.
My name is Heidi Hanus, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. I recently opened my own practice under the name of Faith Individual and Family Counseling in the area of Summerlin. I have been practicing family therapy for 14 years, and I work well with individuals, children, teens, couples, and most of all, families. I have experience in a variety of areas, which include family conflict, communication issues, grief, anxiety, depression, anger issues, addiction, adjustment to life changes, trauma, and most forms of mood disorder. The agency work I have done has given me the experience to work with all levels of issues from severe to mild. I believe in change and positive outcome. If you are interested to begin change, you can reach me at 702-370-4244 or hanusa@cs.com. Thank you.
We're back. This is Steve Sanson and Christine Ortiz with Veterans of Politics. We're here live at the Thunderbird Hotel and Lounge. Christina,
Can you say how beautiful it is here, though? How awesome the lounge is, how cool the lighting is here? Like, it's a really cool set.
Yeah, they're remodeling, so hopefully, you know, we might want to come back down and hang out or something, you know. But we're here with Michael Wixom, University State Regent, District Number 6. Michael, how you doing today, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
First of all, congratulations on making it out of the primary,
Thank you.
right? And how many people were in that race?
We had 5 in the race.
5. So you helped slap 3 of them to the side.
Oh, I guess. It's good to know that there was that much interest. That's good.
There's always interest. You're supposed to be an educated man. University State Regent, right?
Well, we hope. There's not as much interest as we would like.
Okay.
It would be helpful, I think, if the state were more focused on those sorts of issues.
Right.
It would help us.
Tell us about you.
I've been in Las Vegas since 1986. I'm an attorney. I practice banking law primarily. I've been on the board since 2010. I was appointed by Governor Gwynn, and excited to be here.
Why'd you go to the universities and the Regent Center? You, as an attorney with a lucrative business, why politics?
I believe it's an obligation that I have to contribute, and I think all of us have an obligation to contribute. And to the extent that I can make a difference being on the board, I want to make a difference. And it's an opportunity for me, it's a privilege for me, and I'm grateful to have that opportunity.
Oh, well, we're glad to know that somebody cares. And I'm a university student myself. UNLV is where I'm at. And
Good for you.
just to acknowledge that someone cares about how we're going, is willing to represent us, is comforting, because as we've changed, I'm sure you've had to modernize as well.
Yes, and I've seen some exciting things at UNLV. UNLV is emerging, I think, as an outstanding nationally recognized institution. They have some wonderful programs. I know you're in political science, you said, and that's a great program. The Black Mountain Institute is a stellar program that's internationally known. The law school is at the top of most rankings in state law schools across the country. The dental school has been very successful, and there's a lot that's good and positive and engaging about UNLV, and so we're thrilled. We've made great progress.
And I'd have to say that, it used to be known that UNLV was a party school and that we were only good for hotel management. So to have someone like you as a regent come on and help shed some different light on the school is definitely great.
And as it happens, I didn't even mention the hotel school, which is #1 in the world, but from an academic perspective, it really sets the pace for the entire world, a big part of the international. And we have a great number, a huge number of international students at UNLV. A good number of them come to go to the hotel school, both in terms of undergraduate work and graduate work, and we're very proud of what happens there.
Michael, you said that Governor Gwynn appointed you. What year was that?
2010.
2010. So you've been on the Board of Regent for, 6 years now?
Oh, 11 actually.
You said 2010, right?
No, I'm sorry, 2000. I was appointed in 2005. I apologize. Thank you for that catch. That was a good history lesson. That was the last time I was up for election was 2010. So I was appointed in 2005.
You're appointed in 2005. So you've been on the board, 11 years now?
11 years.
Yeah, that's how long we've been doing Veterans in Politics talk show, for 11 years. So since you've been on the board for 11 years, What have you accomplished?
You know, and that's an excellent question. And as I look back, I think there's a lot that we can be proud of.
Okay.
The UNLV Medical School, I think, is the most recent example of where we've come from. One of the big accomplishments for the system as a whole has been that the system has grown and progressed and improved in spite of the fact that we've had between a 20 and 25% reduction in state-supported funds. We've had to create new and innovative ways to finance what we're doing. And for me, that's a great unsung story. It's a very important one, though, that we've become more independent. We're becoming more student-centric. We have put into place a new funding formula, which we believe is much more equitable. It's performance-based, so the institutions are responsible now for graduation rates and retention rates, and it wasn't that way before. So personally, I'm very proud of the fact that we, as I said, we have a new medical school coming, that we have a new funding formula, which I believe, while it's not perfect, it's much better than it was. Nevada State College has made great strides. The board created some innovative financing methodologies for Nevada State College that allowed us to grow and build some new buildings without any state funds at all. And so there's a lot that I can look back and feel good about.
So you guys are over UNLV and UNR, right?
We actually have UNLV, UNR, Western Nevada,
Okay.
Great Basin,
Okay.
CSN, Nevada State College, and in addition, the Desert Research Institute.
So you're familiar
And
with
Truckee Meadows in Reno as well.
You're familiar with Transparent Nevada, right?
Yes.
Okay. How come the medical director makes $1.2 million or some crazy number like that?
Well, I don't think it's that high.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But
How much is it then?
Well,
How much does he make?
Well, right now I can't say for sure, but I remember looking at those specific numbers, and you need to understand from an overall perspective, one of the ways that when you talk about...
How much does he make, Mike?
Well, give me a second, though, okay? Because this is important, Steve. Okay. In terms of the way we operate the medical schools, or we will operate UNLV and UNR medical schools, we rely heavily on what's called a practice plan.
Okay.
And the practice plan is a system in which we have private patients, and the private patients come in and we build their insurance carriers.
Right.
And so when whatever that salary is, the dean gets one salary.
Right.
But when you talk about a director, or you talk about people in the practice plan, a good part of their salary comes from the funds that don't come from state funds. They come from the practice plan itself. And so you have to be careful, because a lot of folks...
it's not tax dollars?
No.
Okay.
It's and that's one of the reasons that we've been able to be successful, is that we generate funds outside of state dollars and fund it in that way. But we have to pay doctors the market rate, because otherwise we couldn't get the doctors to come in and be part of the practice plan and part of the medical school.
How much does he make?
I don't know, Steve.
Not 1.2 million.
I don't believe it's 1.2, and you know, but even if it were 1.2 million, the key for us is where the dollars come from, whether they're state dollars or practice plan dollars.
Okay.
And if it's a practice plan situation, those are figures that we have to pay in order to bring the doctors in that are going to be part of the system and to make the practice plan successful.
How much does the chancellor make? Because the chancellor is the one that's oversees both all the UNLV and
We have an acting chancellor now. I believe he makes $300,000.
300.
Mhm.
You think that's too high?
I don't. The problem that we have, as you look at higher education, is we compete all over with schools all over the country,
Right.
and what we pay actually is on the low end of what comparable salaries would be outside of Nevada. But salaries are high. That's one of the challenges that we face in higher education, is that salaries are high,
Yeah.
but we need to bring good people in, and that's there's always a tension in that regard.
And I guess one thing I have to say in that regard is, you know, you look at like school like UW or Ohio, those state-funded colleges, and, you know, they're competitive. Their degrees are great around the world. Where does UNLV rank in that, and how does UNLV improved in that matter? And UNR as well, in those state-ranked, you know, when you go up to those Ohio's, Cal, Wisconsin.
A lot of those ranking actually is a function of faculty. You bring faculty in, and students follow faculty. Research dollars follow faculty. Programs follow faculty. So one of the key ways that we found in improving a program is to bring in quality people, and if you're going to bring in quality people, you have to pay a market rate.
Right.
And if you try to do it cheap in that regard, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. Now, in that regard, we still have a responsibility both to the state and to the students who pay tuition and fees to make sure that we're being as cost conscious as we possibly can. But that's one of the realities that we face in higher education.
Do you think the tuition fees are high?
Yes, and I wish there were a way that we could bring those down. I think at other institutions they've looked at tuition freezes. I think that's certainly something that we could consider, but tuition dollars are high. Now, the corresponding side to that, this is an interesting statistic though, over time, we haven't seen a high correlation with higher tuition and dropout rates. I mean, people drop out for a number of reasons, and we had to utilize tuition dollars when we were trying to fill a state budget gap between the years. I was chair of the board between the years 2007 and 2009, when we had to absorb a huge budget hit, and we did have to rely on tuition dollars. We relied on cuts to programs, we cut administrative costs, we did a lot to try to streamline what we did, but we did have to rely on tuition. I wish we didn't, but we do.
How much money do you guys spend on the faculty, the Rebels basketball team and the football team, and do you have a baseball team as well?
I mean, UNLV has a baseball team, and
if you was to take all those dollars and put them in one, how much dollars you think you guys spend on the annual? I'm all about dollars and cents.
well, and that's fair. I mean, that's a fair question. But in terms of, a lot of it depends, and to be candid, off the top of my head, I can't remember. We look at we have a budget of $1 billion, and
Annually.
So, yeah, and it probably higher than that. So to be able to pick and choose those figures, I don't keep them on the top of my head. We spend a lot, and I think the state-supported component of that, I think, for UNLV is up to $5 or $6 million a year. So it's a lot. We do generate dollars from ticket sales and from those sorts of concessions and those sorts of things, which offset the cost. But there are still significant state dollars that go into athletics, both at UNR and UNLV.
Yeah, and I don't know if I asked you this question last time we had you on. Do you think that that the university should get rid of their own police department and have Metro take over? Would that be a cost effective if they did it that way?
I don't know if it would be cost effective, because you'd still have to pay Metro. But one of the initiatives that we have undertaken, for example, is we're going to start sharing police forces between institutions. For example, UNLV and Nevada State and CSN, we did that at Truckee Meadows and UNR, so that we share a police force, so that we share law enforcement. Some of the challenges that we face with law enforcement on campuses are unique to the campuses and the campus environment. And it's important for the police, I think, to be familiar with the students and be familiar with the
I was
environment.
just going to agree with you. As a female student who will face classes in the evening, I always love having our police force right there within reach at any given time. It's just a safer knowledge, and it's a lot easier if we already have the police force on campus than having to hope that Metro can get there in a timely manner. And so just as a female student, and knowing that the garages are dark and that there are classes that go on at night, I'm all about and totally love how well our campus police forces and how engaged they are with their students.
But with that same note, you could also assign a Metro officers to be on that campus, just like they do in high schools, correct?
You could, but Metro also has its own financial strains, and one of the issues you'd have to face is who pays for it. So we would end up having to pay for it one way or another. We could take a look at that, I suppose, and see if that's a possibility. But overall, I'm not sure how much cost savings that would generate. But I'm always about cost savings. To the extent that you can save $1 and put it back in the classroom, we should.
A couple days ago, you guys had a false alert at UNLV. There was an alert about a shooter on campus. You think that's scary for those students that was there at that time?
I'm sure it was scary. President Jessup immediately sent us a Regent's alert letting us know what had happened. The good news is that...
Were you guys informed about that?
Oh, within minutes.
Okay.
Within minutes, they told
Well,
us.
what's protocol?
The protocol is we have a regional alert system so that if there's an issue that arises on campus, if there's an emergency, then the regents are immediately put on alert, the regents and the chancellor, so that we know and can respond if we need to.
With that, let's talk a little bit about campus carry. How do you feel about campus carry?
I've always been opposed to campus carry.
Why is that?
I don't think that adding guns to the mix really solves a problem. The chairman of the board right now is a former Marine, Rick Trachok, and Rick and I have talked about this issue a lot. I hunted when I was young.
There's no such thing as former Marines.
Well, Rick has pointed that out on occasion, but there's a big difference in carrying a weapon and killing someone, and as you know. And the concern is that by adding weapons to the mix and then adding to that mix also the confusion and chaos that can arise, I just don't believe that extra weapons help. I would rather rely on a campus police force that's close and involved. And as I said, I'm experienced.
And what's their response time?
I don't know the specific response time, but that's one of the reasons we like to have them on campus, and we'd like to have them close.
Have you ever been to a bank or any,
I worked for a bank, yeah.
or any county building? They have a gun and they have a cross on there, no weapons allowed. Some hospitals have that as well. Do you know who puts their weapons away?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Law-abiding citizens put their weapons away. You know who will continue and go past that sign? Somebody that's carrying it illegally.
No, I understand.
So you think a gun-free zone will tell me that there's nobody on there have a weapon, except for anybody dressed up in blue?
You're conflating several different issues.
Sure.
I don't believe that adding weapons to that kind of a mix helps. I do believe having law enforcement that's close does help, and I think that becomes a reasonable way to respond. As I said, in my judgment, I think there are better ways to go about keeping a campus safe, and I don't believe that arming everyone is the best way.
Well, what would you tell? Well, they got to be qualified and go through the background check, and just like anything else.
Soon, we hope.
Right. What would you tell that one student that was raped at UNR who had a concealed weapons permit but didn't bring her weapon on campus because of the gun-free zone and she was raped? What would you tell her about this response time and about officers being on campus?
Whatever I say to her wouldn't be enough. So for me to go back and use that as an example, I don't think is either fair to me or fair to her, because I obviously can't say to her, golly, everything's would have been. I mean, I can't say that what would have happened in the past. All I can do is make my best judgment right now, and my best judgment based on my experience and talking to people I know and understand, and who understand weapons, talking to law enforcement, by and large, who are overwhelmingly opposed to that notion. And when I look at law enforcement that comes back to me and says, no, we don't want.
Law enforcement is always going to be opposed to that.
Well, then we ought to listen to law enforcement.
They're the only ones who want to carry a gun.
Well, that's fine, but as I said, my best judgment is that it isn't a place.
Do you carry?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you have a permit to carry?
No.
Anything bad ever happened to you?
No.
Okay. That's why. Once something bad happens, then your mindset will change, and you'll say, you know what?
Well,
if I only carried, then this wouldn't have happened to me.
When you deal in hypotheticals, I can create all sorts of hypotheticals.
Yeah.
You know, and I can create a hypothetical that would respond to yours as well. And by and large, people who carry have never had to use that weapon. Occasionally they do, but I can also point to a number of situations of people I know who have had some very tragic things happen to them because they carried and they didn't, in spite of all the training they've had, they didn't respond well. But in my experience, I think there are better ways to spend our time. For example, I would rather talk more about the fact that 50% of the students that come to Nevada colleges have to go through remediation, and they aren't prepared for college.
Exactly what is that?
That means
Remediation-
that they're not taking the math courses or the reading courses or the language arts courses to prepare them for college. And that starts at the elementary level, that starts at Clark County, that starts at Washoe County, that starts at our levels. And I believe a lot of that problem is that we take away the teacher's ability to teach and test those students to death.
And I think you make a very good point. And so that, I think, is the biggest untold scandal in Nevada higher education and in Nevada education, that one half of the students that come into our universities and colleges aren't prepared. Now, importantly, about half the students that come to UNLV drop out. We have a 50% six-year graduation rate. At UNR, it's a 60% graduation rate, which means that, and by and large, the kids who drop out are the kids who aren't prepared. That, in my mind, is the biggest scandal in Nevada education. And to the extent we can talk to school board people and members of the Board of Regents, and to the extent we can talk to legislators, that should be our primary focus. Because if we could bring down the remediation rate, if we could prepare students, we would allow them to graduate, we would allow them to, students who drop out end up getting burdened with debt for years, and they don't have a way to pay it back.
Right.
If we were going to do one single thing in Nevada to improve education, it would to bring down the remediation rate, to make sure that students, when they graduate, are prepared for college and prepared for higher education. That's where I would like to spend, if I'm reelected, my time and energy and effort and focus.
You know, I'm a parent, and my daughter at this age, or at any age, will not be allowed to attend Clark County school districts because they don't prepare them. I have now been, and it's the most saddest thing is that the only option is for her to go through the private and the diocese, but they changed the curriculum on them to Common Core, where most parents don't even know this. Then they test them to death, and then they take away all that power from the teachers, and we have 40 kids with one teacher, and that's the ratio. That's the average ratio in the southern Nevada hemisphere, and I can't imagine it being much better in the northern hemisphere either, except for maybe they have less population than us.
It's a challenge throughout the state. It's an issue we have throughout the state. And if I could get the legislature to focus on that issue and spend time and effort and energy on that issue, that's an area where we could make a real difference and make real progress.
Michael, do you work hand in hand with the Clark County School District the trustees? Because they're the ones that's graduating those kids to put them in college.
Formally, we don't have any connection. We talk a lot. There is a council in Nevada. It's called the P through 16 Council. It is the council that's supposed to be coordinating activities that happen in K through 12 with higher education. By and large, I don't believe the P through 16 council has worked effectively in the past. In states with effective P through 16 councils, where the governor sits as a member of the council, where key legislators sit as members of the council, that's where we can start to coordinate what we need to happen from higher education and what needs to happen in our high schools to make sure that there's a smooth transition from high school to college, and that's one effort that we could make.
Well, Mike, I'd like to thank you for coming on the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And could you let the listeners know why they should go back to the voting booth and vote for you once again?
That's a fair question. I think as we go forward, it's critical right now that we that we have somebody in this seat who's had the experience and knowledge and understanding of the issues that we face, remediation being one of them. For me, that was a great revelation as we go forward. As we begin the new medical school, I think it's critical that we have someone with institutional knowledge of where we've been and where we need to go. And as we move forward to try to make additional changes to the funding formula, I think my experience, because I was on the interim committee that created the funding formula, is critical as we go forward to make sure that that the funding formula is equitable, that it meets the needs of Nevada students, and we're focused on performance and graduation rates in particular.
Do you have a point of contact?
Yeah, you can reach me at 702-437-1737. That's probably the best way to find me, 702-437-1737.
You have a website?
I have a Facebook page, but if you go to Facebook and just look up Mike Wixom Regent, I'll be there.
Folks, that's Michael Wixom, University State Regent, District Number 6, and he's been endorsed by Veterans in Politics.
This is Steve Sampson, Christina Ortiz with Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have Christine DeCorte, candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 18.